Today I am delighted to speak with Haley Carbajal. Haley, you are a starseed coach and mentor, an authentic spiritual leader, and the creator of 5 Steps to Alignment. You have paved your own path, both in hardship and in victory, and you are passionate about empowering spiritually awakened individuals to heal themselves, master this 3D reality, and align with their soul's mission. Haley, welcome to the show. It's such a pleasure to speak with you today.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the amazing introduction. Thank you.
I hope we built up some curiosity already by this introduction, and I will add to that right now that today I would like to explore with you one of the things is why people have trouble taking action, the action that they know they should be taking, and also some things like why the let's say conventional manifestation methods like law of attraction, etc., don't work as expected sometimes. And I think most important out of all of this is the practical steps that you would like to offer for creating measurable results. So I'll put all that out there as a teaser, and we have many things we want to talk about. But I want to start by asking you, because I already said that you are a star seed coach. So what is that exactly? Explain this to us.
Grab your seatbelt because this is extremely woo-woo, okay? So, a starseed is this theory that higher multidimensional beings, such as extraterrestrials, have incarnated from their star system and come here, project their consciousness into in a human body, and
Okay.
that is a starseed.
That's great. Thank you for the disclaimer in the beginning. Uh, there is something in particular, Haley, that I wanted to start this conversation with, and it is about your journey. I read that you had an incredible number of rejections that you had to go through while you were following your calling. I think it is 208. That's what I've made here. That sounds like an incredible amount, and there is a lot that we can discuss about that. But can you tell me a little bit about that time, what you were doing, and why were and with the rejections coming, how did you kept on handling it? Before we move to
Hmm.
the turning point, because I'm sure there was a turning point, but let's go before the turning point first.
It started off by living other people's truths, honestly. So at that time, I was working with a business coach that offered high ticket, learning how to do high ticket sales, high
Mhm.
ticket program, all of these things. And it was brilliant because it made me put all of my financial mindset limitations under a microscope.
Mhm.
um and so even though it was very hard, very heartbreaking, very exhausting, I flourished from it and I don't have as many financial limitations anymore. um but there's always just been this knowingness within me that I am meant to share this knowledge and intelligence that
Mhm.
I have with the world. And at that time, that was the only vehicle I could see that it would occur. So I had tunnel vision, because I was starry eyed about the money and the promises and the this, that,
Okay.
and the other thing, right? We all do it. We all go through that. And so because of that, in order for me to learn how to do things the right way, I had to learn how to do them the wrong way first, which
Mm.
was in force, which was in scarcity, which was in allowing fear to make the decisions, which was being in anxiousness. And again, it was just kind of like force. Like I had a chokehold on my business and what I wanted it to be, and I didn't allow for there to be freedom or creativity. So, often I say I was destroyed by the dream, but then I was rebuilt by it, because it really is a necessary process. In order for there to be an emergence of new, there has to be a destruction of the old. So I would not change. And we're 208 rejections. We're talking about like at least a minimum of hour-long phone calls. Hour-long phone calls, getting to the end and hearing a no, or hearing I don't have the money. And then, with the high ticket, they try to do it's not pressure sales. You know what I mean? So I had to go through all that objection handling, and it was inner turmoil. But ultimately, I learned more about myself and what matters to me, and truly who I want to help and make an impact with and for.
Thank you. That's fascinating. Tell me, during that period, you mentioned the word chokehold and the word scarcity. I can only imagine that self-doubt creeps in when you are in a situation like this. How did you deal with that? I suppose I can only imagine increase in self-doubt.
Well, not only was I failing pretty much on a daily basis with phone calls, but I was seeing massive financial devastation. I poured all of my savings. It was like
Mm-hmm.
60 grand I saved, and I threw into this whole business model, and seeing negatives in my bank account, hoping that maybe this will be the next call, right? So at first, I just want to make sure I'm being honestly reflective.
Mm-hmm.
So at first, I did a lot of the blame game. What's wrong with me? What am I doing wrong? Am I out of alignment? I never doubted that that was what I was meant to do, which is funny because that is not what I was meant to do. Because I was, again, tunnel visioned, right? This was the only way. And so there was a lot of, there were nights obviously crying because we had everything we needed, but it was scary. It was
Mm-hmm.
very financially scary. And I lost family and friends because of it too, because they didn't believe in what I was doing. Um, and so, and that's okay. But in the, in the thick of it, lots of self-doubt, but the only thing, see, that I firmly believe that if your dream, you have this dream, you have this vision, you have this passion, it has a gravitational pull of its own, where it's like no matter how many times you get hit, you question yourself, am I insane for getting back up again? But that it's like a knowingness within you to just keep going. And honestly, I think that's the only way that I did keep going, and why I'm still going now. Different methods, obviously, but still going now, because my purpose is everything. It's literally what I live and breathe for. If I'm resting for the dream. There's nothing there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about it. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
does that answer your question?
It certainly does. Thank you. And you said something about the gravitational pull and and the knowingness, because when you have that, I have experienced that also myself, and I'm sure people listening can relate to how it feels that when you overcome your self-doubts because of your, the internal drivers behind that. Haley, what was a turning point? Was there a clear turning point after all these rejections? What happened? How quickly things shifted,
I
and
stopped.
what make them shift?
Yes, I stopped living by other people's truths and definitions. So I took my offer from 5K down to 1,500, because that felt more in alignment. And then I started getting consistent clients, consistent income, until I decided that that was actually no longer what I wanted to do. That's no longer how I wanted to implement my intelligence. Also, this just came in. The thing about self-doubt is that we're like, oh, I need to trust myself, or I need to trust the thing, or I need to trust the circumstance, or I need to, right? Trust comes up, right? It's like we're not trusting ourselves. But if you look at it, you're trusting in something anyway. You're just trusting in what you don't prefer to happen. You're trusting in the fact of a fallout. You're trusting in the fact that you're not capable. So it's not that you actually have to learn how to trust. It's that just flip the script in a way that is authentic and meaningful to you, and realize that you're trusting in something anyway. So if you could trust in anything, what would you want that to be? And then additionally, this is not mine. This is from, I believe her name is Jen Gottlieb. If I don't know if I pronounced her name correctly, but she has this concept that, because we've been programmed, conditioned to believe that we need to believe in ourselves 100% before we do something. And that actually is what prevents people from making decisions, because you're like, well, I don't believe in myself 100%. When in reality, if you talk to somebody who is a risk taker and really is confident, believes in themselves, they just have a smaller threshold for how much they believe in their ability to do something. They just do it. They're more impulsive, right? So if you look at it, if you can just believe in yourself, or just believe in the opportunity just 1% more than you don't believe, 51%, then that is enough to move forward. But the thing is you have to support yourself in that decision, because where there becomes destruction is in that self-doubt, going through a stress-induced visualization of the worst case scenario, believing in that more than what that moment of inspiration was. And then that's where we actually participate in our own downfall, right? All pain is resistance to the natural self. So when we're feeling that discord, when we're feeling that disalignment, or that frustration, or fear, or scarcity, know that that's not the authentic you that's coming up, because there are incongruent beliefs with the natural self, with the core being of who you are. And those emotions are messengers to say, hey, this is the thing that's holding you back. And that doesn't mean it's a prison sentence. It doesn't mean it's forever. It just means that you're actually in alignment and going where you want to go, and you're getting what you want, because these old stagnant beliefs are coming up. But normally we define them as we're out of alignment, or it's not meant for us, or something's wrong with us, or we're not capable. And so therefore that is what we create. But if we looked at it and in the highest truth of what it actually is that these subconscious programs are no longer controlling us. That's why they've surfaced up to the conscious mind. And it is the conscious mind. It needs to be consciously identified. And therefore you can make the conscious decision to remove it. And then you're at the tail end of it. It's already done. When it no longer makes sense, it's like, okay, then we can release it. It doesn't have to be this whole grueling sit down and meditate for 30 minutes to figure it out. Sometimes that's necessary, but more often than not, it's just asking yourself intelligent questions. Is what I'm thinking really true? Is this belief that I have actually probable? Where is this coming from? Is this coming from a place of fear, or from a place of faith? Is it coming from a place of empowerment or disempowerment? Whose voice is in my head? Is this my mother's? Is this my father's? Or is this mine? If we just stopped taking what we automatically think of as truth and just be the observer and be curious, don't create emotional attachment to it. Has nothing to do with you. right? If you're just like, oh, wow, this is coming from the subconscious mind to the conscious,
Mm-hmm.
thank you. That means it's ready to be released and you're already on the back end of it. So just wrap it up, finish it up, let it go.
Thank you for this multifaceted answer that you gave me. There is one thing in particular, because you're mentioning about the emotions are messengers. I think that's how you said it. And there was something you said earlier on, in particular, that you, when you were not having the success you were expecting, you were blaming yourself. And because I think many of us find ourselves in a similar situation when things do not go, when we put the effort and we do not have the outcome that we would expect, it is, I would say, natural, maybe not natural, but it is, let's say, habitual, maybe that's a better word, to blame ourselves and say, well, I'm not doing, I think that's something you said, that you thought you were not doing something. And for me, I will add here as my own personal experience, sometimes I think whether I am doing something that I shouldn't be doing also, that, so the question with this is for, someone who finds themselves blaming themselves for not having achieved or achieving the outcomes they wanted to. What would you, what would you advise? And even better, what is a practical way of, realizing that and stepping out of it when you have to?
Blaming yourself is only feeding the problem. Blaming yourself is only feeding the problem because, as Dr. Joe Dispenza says, you cannot think beyond what you feel. So you shouldn't trust the thoughts or the feelings that are coming forward when you're in an unresourceful state or when you're in a stressful state. You have acceptance for it without wishing that it were different, understanding that this is just a wave that's coming up and it's temporary and it will go, but allow yourself to feel it, because if you don't feel it, then you're pushing it down and then it's only going to control you subconsciously, right? You can't think beyond what you feel. So if you just recognize that the answer will come to you when you're in a more creative state, let's say like when you're cooking, when you're walking, when you're talking with a friend, when you're sitting outside, or whatever it is that brings you personal enjoyment, that is when the information or the answer will come in.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you think about it, if you're in a contracted state, how can you be expansive in thought? You can't. It's not possible. So just accept it for what it is and know that it's only temporary. These emotions are just telling you where you're feeling limited. And that is a gift, because if you can't acknowledge those, then you'll forever be unconsciously limited. And then when you're in a more expansive, blissful state, the answer will come to you. Again, it's about letting go of the force, because not the force is awesome if we're talking Star Wars, but letting go of the need to force or manufacture an outcome to happen, because like that's literally the epitome of the hamster on the wheel. The hamster is making is being active. It's very high activity, but it's not making progress. And so slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So if we just let go and detach, which I know that's a whole process and a whole nother 40-minute conversation of detachment, like within itself. But if you can let go and detach and just have trust that it will come to you, then it will. Because also the reticular activating system part of the brain plays a part in this too, because that is the filter that shows you who you think you are and what you believe about life. So if you're in a state where you won't find the answers, I won't find the answers, or I'm stressed, literally your brain will not be able to perceive anything outside of that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's important for you to get into a space of neutrality and balance, So, and then just put the intention out there. I'm ready to receive my answer, and then have zero insistence about how or when it's supposed to come to you. Because even that insistence of I need this answer by this day at this time, I understand there's deadlines, but just allow it to come to you.
This is great, and it leads me nicely to something else I wanted to talk to you about. But I think you've already given me partially the answer. But let me ask anyway. It is something I was reading. You were saying about affirmations, for example, that they're not as powerful as they advertise them to be. And I can attest personally, having done and doing affirmations for years, I don't mean short amounts of time, I mean many years, there are many of them that I'm still affirming them without having seen them happen. And I want to bring that, what you're saying with the affirmation also about the law of attraction, that it is outdated. That's the word you used, an outdated way. So let's talk about manifesting then in this situation. And it ties in with what you were saying just now, that it is not about the tools that one uses in the end, whether it is this or that, but it is something else. And let's talk about that, because I think it's very important to uncover it and explore it.
Yeah, so let's start. I don't know where to start, but we're going to start with the law of attraction.
Sure.
So the reason why it's outdated. So if you're looking at this from a multidimensional perspective, okay, humanity was at a denser level of consciousness, right? It was more systems, logic, point A to point B,
Mm-hmm.
practical. Now more than ever, people are like, I'm listening to my heart, or I'm following my heart, or they're questioning more of the reality that's around them. That
Yeah.
is an indication of awareness and higher level of consciousness and enlightenment. So because the earth, humanity was at a denser level of consciousness, that is all they could convey at that time. Because again, you can't think beyond what you feel, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
the law of attraction in of itself is incomplete. The secret, and I know this is bold, the secret is incomplete. And here's why. So number one, we are told that we are the creators of our reality, not the attractors. And to say that you have to attract something means that it's this thing that is outside of you that you have to
Mm.
pull in, and it's not within you, and you have to change who you are, or you have to change this or the other thing. That's not true. Everything that is meant for you, that you see and feel, is already in alignment with you. You just need to be in presence with that alignment. So I'm not saying that the science isn't correct. The law of frequency, the law of alignment is accurate. But there's a difference between thinking that we have to pull something from external within, when if we're creators and it all starts within, then the reality is just a mirror to what's going on. So that's why it's incomplete. Another aspect, there's so many aspects to this. Another aspect of this is that these visions that we get of our reality, right? They are only meant to be motivators, right?
Mm.
So if you think about a goal that you wanted to hit in your life that you've already hit, you're like, wow, it kind of surpassed my wildest dreams. And it didn't happen in the way that I thought it would happen, but it happened, right? Everybody says that. That's because these visions that we have are meant to emotionally connect with that state of being and with that vision, so
Mhm.
that we start broadcasting that frequency to the universe so that the universe can give it to us, but then we must let go of the vision. We must let go of the how, because if you can predict how something is going to appear in your life, you are manifesting from the old version of yourself, because the new version of you would bring in something completely and radically different. So you leverage the vision, the tool of the visualization, and allow yourself to feel it in its fullest capacity. And then you let go, knowing that what you're going to be given is so much better than even that. And that was just a tool to get you in alignment with frequency. Because if you say it has to show up this way or it's not working, do you realize how much you're limiting yourself? Let's use me for an example. If I said I can only earn money from this high ticket offer, look where that got me, right? I was cutting myself off from other opportunities and resources. When you say the love of my life has to come as a brunette with brown eyes, right? And that's it. Then you're cutting yourself off from somebody with maybe auburn hair and green eyes. But you get what I'm saying? So we actually limit ourselves when we're like, it needs to be this way. We use the brunette with the brown eyes to motivate us to be in alignment, to be that better person, to be this. And then we let it go and allow ourselves to be surprised.
This is such a beautiful way to describe it, Haley. Thank you. I enjoyed your description of it.
Thank you.
Since I mentioned a minute ago the affirmations, do you mind telling me about that as well? What
I would
are your
love to.
thoughts on it?
Yeah, I would love to. So, affirmations, it's almost like a place of who are you trying to convince, right? Because you can say, let's just do health, right? You could say, I am healthy, I am healthy, I am healthy to your blue in the face. But if you don't believe it in your beingness, in your feelings, in your knowingness, then you're creating discord, right? And also think about it. If you are already healthy, you're not saying, I am healthy. You're saying, thank you for my health, right? That's a little bit different, because when you're in a space of, I am this, I am that, and you're doing that from a space of trying to bring something in, right? You're ultimately vibrating lack of it, because if you already had it, you would not be having to affirm it to yourself to try and convince it, try to reprogram it. It's more about who you are being while you say whatever it is that you say, or whatever tool you implement. Affirmations don't make you spiritual. Yoga doesn't make you spiritual. Meditation doesn't make you spiritual. Kundalini doesn't make you spiritual, because otherwise anybody who has had experience with those things would be like gods and goddesses, right? No, we're all human, and we're all disfigured or whatever in our own ways still, right? Because this is a human experience. It's not about whether the Kundalini is the answer. It's not about whether the affirmations are the answer, whether the yoga or the meditation are the answer, because it's not about the tools. It is about who you are being while you do them, while you use them, right? So, like affirmations, for example, if it is an authentic moment when you just crushed it at the gym and you're like, thank you so much for my health. Thank you so much that I got to go an extra 2 minutes today on the treadmill. That's a real authentic moment when an affirmation would work. But if you're sitting there and you're sick and you have stuff coming out of your nose and you got a pounding headache and you're like, I'm healthy, I'm healthy, I'm healthy, that's not congruent. That's not alignment. You're not being that state of vibration. So when you're actually, the way that I have found affirmations to truly be useful is when you are really truly in the present state of whatever it is that you're trying to affirm, and then acknowledging that and then anchoring it in, because the emotional home plays a factor in this too. So that's why affirmations work for some and don't work for others. That's why yoga works for some and doesn't work for others, because it's not about the tool. Just because your favorite spiritual guru said, do this meditation, doesn't mean it's going to work for you. You have to have discernment about what you're applying and is it actually making you feel better after you use it. That's how you know. Are you actually feeling better? Are you actually feeling more enlightened? Are you actually feeling more blissful, creative, and in alignment? And here's another tricky nuance to this. Tricky, that's a definition. It's not necessarily highest truth or accurate, but a nuance to this is that not all of the same things will always work at the same time. So some people like to use music to help get themselves into a more blissful, creative state. And maybe on a certain day that might not work. And you have to just be like, okay, the music isn't working right now, and that's okay. But what else can I do? What else do I have in my tool belt that would help bring me alignment? Maybe that day it is meditation. And if it doesn't work, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with meditation. There's nothing wrong with music. There's nothing wrong with me. I am just currently finding the thing that will bring me into alignment. See, we cannot move forward unless we have acceptance for what is. We have to accept it as it is without wishing that it were different. And then and only then can you actually move forward in changing or upgrading or altering what it is that you so desire. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. What you were saying about the acceptance and being in presence with the alignment, and there is. You said that it is about who you are being. And you also mentioned your state of vibration. And I think you were already explaining these things, because that was my question. What are things that one can practically do to enhance that who they are being at that time, to upgrade it? And I know these are not probably the most appropriate words, but I think you can get the gist behind
Yes.
what I mean.
So first we got to locate or identify who we're being first, because we can't accept it if we don't know what it is, right? So the best way to tell who you're being is by the emotions that you're experiencing. So if you're experiencing anxiousness or sadness or depression, or maybe even joy, bliss, gratitude, whatever the emotion is, and you got to take a second, like just observe the thoughts. Are they running rapid, or are they peaceful and fluid? So the first way is to identify is just take a inventory for a second and ask, who am I being right now, or what am I feeling right now? And then whatever that answer is who you're being, right? So then, like in the affirmations, I am healthy, I am healthy, I am healthy. Well, actually, who am I being? I am being afraid. Therefore, you're being scarce, right? And that's a scarcity of health. Makes sense? So then the second thing to do is to have full acceptance for what is. You have to accept, I'm anxious right now, and you have to make that okay. You have to make being afraid okay, because actually, like, really honestly think about it. It is those denser emotions. I refer to them as denser, like depression, sadness, grief, frustration, anger, fill in the blank as it pertains to you.
Yeah.
Those emotions, we don't know what's wrong. We don't know what's incongruent. We don't know where we have a belief that's causing our own suffering without those emotions. So if you can, again, how do you define them? What is the story or meaning that you give yourself when you're angry? Most of us have been told, that's wrong. Don't get angry. You're not supposed to get angry, or, get it together, right? It's okay to be angry because there's a higher purpose to it, but you have to perceive and define it that way in order for you to experience that or extract that experience. So identify by just asking, then accept it for what it is. And then after that, you can ask yourself questions. So there's three. There's actually four. So the first one is, what am I making this mean? So anger, for example, what am I making this mean? Most often I'm making it mean that I'll never be healthy. Okay. What could this mean instead? So now you're tapping into the higher consciousness, problem solving aspect of the self, of the brain, whatever you'd like to call it. What could this mean instead? This is showing me that I still have a belief that I'm never going to get healthy, right? And then three, how is this getting me closer to my goal? Because if we can give it a meaning that gives it purpose and a forward moving momentum, then that is actually what we create. Because the thing is you're creating anyway. We're actually manifesting all the time anyway. All the time. Think about it. When you've been driving and you know that somebody's going to cut you off and you're like, I knew it. They do it and you're like, I knew it. I knew my wife was going to say that. I knew that my boss was going to say it, right? We're already manifesting anyway. This is simply about refining and becoming more conscious of what it is that we manifest. And that is through that contrast, right? So then the fourth question, and if you want me to elaborate on that, let me know. But the fourth question is what would I have to believe about myself or about my life in order for me to be experiencing this emotion? And there you have it. There's the belief. And then when you have that belief, I know there's a lot of steps in this. I hope they're taking notes, or go back and listen to this again and take notes. But then after it's been identified, that's when you ask those questions. Is this really true? Is this really the highest truth? Is this a law in creation? Is this a law of the universe? I'm telling you is a no. It's not a law. And it's just an opinion or a belief that came from society, your parents, your grandparents, a teacher, your friends, or maybe something that happened in your life experience previously. And again, if I want the audience to leave with anything, I want them to know that when those limiting beliefs come up, when those denser emotions come up, it is not bad. That is actually a sign that you are moving in the direction that you're asking for, but these things need to come up in order for you to get there. Because the person that you are now is different than the person than you are at the finish line. So it is a sign that you're getting what you want, and see it that way. Leverage it that way.
Thank you for the answer, for your passion sharing it, and the energy that is coming through along with the words that you say. So I appreciate that very much, Hayley. I am going to start wrapping up this engrossing conversation. I would say illuminating. I enjoyed it very much. I have two quick questions that I always ask my guests at the end. But before I do, share with the listener, where can they connect with you and find out more about you and your work?
Yeah. So if you would like to work with me, I do have a Patreon offering. So for $7.77 a month, you can receive group coaching and mentorship. And we do like one 90-minute workshop, a 25-minute energy healing, and then a 90-minute live Q&A every single month. So Patreon, that's 5 steps to alignment. And then I'm very active on Instagram. And again, that's at 5 steps to alignment spelt out. So those are and obviously my website, 5stepstoalignment.com.
Thank you. And so these two final quick questions. And the first one is, what does personal development mean to you?
I love this question. It is simply just releasing all of the things that you are not.
So I agree, and I liked how succinctly you put it as a concept. And a hypothetical question: if you could go back in time and meet your 18-year-old self, what's one piece of advice you would give her?
I felt my heart expand when you asked me that question. I don't want to take up too much time. I want to just make sure it's meaningful. I don't say things lightly. I think I would tell her that you freaking got it. You freaking got it. Like, just keep going. You freaking got it, and it's going to be okay. That's what I would say.
Great. Haley, I want to thank you very much for this conversation with Head today, and for all the wisdom that you shared with us. I want to wish you all the very best with your mission and everything that you do. I will leave it to you for some actionable parting wisdom.
So the thing that would stop you from taking action is because you believe that the action, the not taking action is serving you better. So if you're afraid of something, it's simply because there's a belief in there that doesn't allow you to feel safe or protected somehow in moving forward. But when you realize that by staying the same, you're actually not protecting yourself and you're not keeping yourself safe, right? So if you're afraid to move forward, acknowledge that that's okay. Where there is fear, there is your task. And if you don't make time, if you don't make an effort towards transformation, towards your dream, towards your personal development, then you will unconsciously and automatically make time for the reality that you don't like now.
Thank you.